With developing news, 2 people have been detained during protests just this morning outside of the ICE facility in Broadview. Darius Johnson live for us there, where pepper balls have been shot at protesters several times. Darius, you are in your protective gear. What's happened within just the last hour?
Hey there, Marie. Good morning to you. Within the last hour, we saw 2 protesters who were detained. Those protesters were part of that 25th Avenue protest that's taking place, trying to block vehicles. They were then brought here to the ICE processing facility, and we saw them being taken through the gates. At the exact same time, there is a lot of tear gas, CS gas, and rubber bullets that are being deployed. That CS gas is meant to impact your breathing and a lot of other things, making it hard for protesters to continue. What we have been seeing right here, now that that fencing is up, whenever protesters touch the fence, that's when they are being hit with those chemical agents by the agents who are on the roof. We've even seen one protester who is continuously showing his backside, mooning the agents, and then being hit with pepper balls at that point. Take a look at this video that we've gathered from the ground here. This is the scene outside the ICE processing facility here on Beach Street. And since Tuesday, ICE agents installed this new fencing, which Broadview officials have been calling for it to come down. That new fencing is now preventing any protesters from blocking any vehicles to get through the gates. That is exactly what has caused many of those tensions, those heated moments, the escalations that we've seen every Friday for the past couple of weeks, when it leads to those chemical agents being deployed. Now, we just learned from DHS since September 19th that a total of 17 people have been arrested for protesting here in Broadview. Now take a look at our video from the chopper that we've been able to gather. This is that other protest taking place on 25th Avenue. These are the protesters who are essentially trying to stop any ICE vehicles from moving in or out of the facility with detainees. That's where a lot of the clashes are taking place today. In the last couple of hours, we were able to speak to one woman and her sister who were both here protesting this morning for the very first time, and they did not expect to come express their First Amendment rights and get close to the gates before ICE agents started deploying pepper balls at them for what they say was absolutely nothing.
We were all standing behind the gates and just with our signs up and chanting, very peaceful, and they just started firing. They were on the roof. They were the sharpshooters that are up there. There's 2 people up there, and they just started shooting at us, like, for no reason at all.
While protesters continue to argue that they have been protesting peacefully, ICE agents continue to say that they have been escalating things by throwing rocks, fireworks, and even slashing tires. These protesters say they will stay out here and they will keep showing up as long as they need to until there is an end to what they call illegal detentions happening and taking place at this facility. And Marie, just to set the scene for you, many of us, all of the media crews, we now have on masks. Most of us have on goggles as well, because even though we're further back, those pepper bullets that are being deployed, it is still impacting our breathing, causing us to cough. When it comes to the protesters, they have that white tent, and that white tent is where they have goggles, masks, saline solution for their eyes for when people are hit by those chemical agents. We're live in Broadview at the ICE processing facility. I'm Darius Johnson. Marie, back to you.
Smart to protect yourself out there. Darius, thank you so much. And
arrest guys! Arrest guys! Arrest guys!
All right, and what you just heard right there were protesters in the city of Chicago yelling, "Shoot ICE, shoot ICE," just days after the events that took place in Dallas, Texas, where a shooter attempted to take out ICE agents and ultimately failed, only taking out a detainee and ultimately himself. Tensions between protesters in Chicago and ICE agents continue to boil over. And so first, let's take a look at what the agents are dealing with when they basically want to enter or exit the facility, dealing with the protesters. Let's take a look. So absolutely insane. what these agents are dealing with. We think about what happened just a few days ago down in Dallas with the shooter looking to take out agents. And here you have protesters looking to crowd and obstruct the vehicle, trying to enter or exit the facility. And considering the events that did just take place down in Dallas, these protesters really shouldn't even be allowed to be this close in proximity to any ICE agent when they're trying to do their job. This becomes a safety issue, as we heard in the first clip with one of the protesters yelling, "Shoot ICE." Have you ever had a moment that changed your life? One accident, one employer who doesn't care, one hospital bill you couldn't pay. That's how quick life can change. And when it does, you realize something fast. The big companies, the insurance giants, they don't care about you. They've got teams of lawyers whose only job is to protect their bottom line. But who's protecting you? There's a reason why it feels like traffic always jams when you're running late. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has fought for the people, not the powerful. With 1,000 plus attorneys and more than 100 offices nationwide, they've recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients just like you. Whether you're a 41-year-old family man in Florida, struck by a driver who ran a red light, Morgan & Morgan secured a $9.3 million verdict. Or a father and Little League coach who suffered lasting injuries in a car crash, Morgan & Morgan secured a $6.1 million verdict. When you hire them, it's like hiring a legal army that has your back. Starting a claim is simple. You can get started right now from your phone. No hassle. You can click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to see if you have a claim. Their fee is free unless they win. Because when life changes in an instant, you deserve a law firm that's ready to fight for you. All right, so as we just saw in the previous clip, it's more than just touching the gate and expressing your First Amendment right that's going on right here. As we saw in that previous clip, where clearly there were protesters who were looking to do all they could to be as much of a deterrent to the agents doing their job as they were trying to enter or exit the facility. But as we heard right there, that's the part that they won't report on. They'll tell you about how the agents are firing pepper balls and tear gas and the protesters are having trouble breathing, but they won't mention the part where the protesters are also escalating the situation by their actions. And so understand, these agents have reason to make sure that they keep themselves safe, as there's been a growing number of attacks on ICE agents. And so let's check this out.
Well, in case you thought that these ICE attacks or the threats of them were just a one-off, let me show you this. This is pretty incredible. So there's been a surge of them. We had a Molotov cocktail attack near Los Angeles airport. We had this ambush at the Prairie Field Detention Center. You might remember this. It's the Alvarado, Texas event. You had an incendiary device on the 4th of July out in Portland, Oregon. Let's go back down to Texas. There's a shooting at a Border Patrol facility in McAllen. You had protesters firing guns at a raid on a cannabis farm. Remember that? And there was one guy who ended up going to jail. I believe he's indicted on that. And that was in California. You had something also in Washington State, a rock and arson attack at an ICE field office, and then here also San Francisco, pepper spray and ICE agents. So this is more widespread than people think. It's not just a one-off here and there, and that is why Tricia McLaughlin made the point that she did from the Department of Homeland Security.
All right, guys, and so right there you see Fox News laying out individual cases nationwide demonstrating that there is political violence against ICE agents taking place. But then when you bring that to Democrats, denial seems to be the only thing they understand how to use. And so let's turn to the CNN panel where they were doing just that.
Look, this is extremely disturbing that there's another one of these types of shootings. I think we've got to deal with this as a country, first of all. But I also, just for starters, I'm curious, how does it help to have the vice president say that?
Because the third one in Texas. I mean, if you know people that work in law enforcement, my family does. I know ICE agents in Texas. This is the third attack we've seen in Texas, in the same district as the man in charge today was saying. Like, this is the second time he's had to have a press conference today.
Who was killed today? Who was killed today?
So you're saying since it
That's
wasn't...
not what I'm at. No.
So you're saying since it wasn't... It was
ask-
innocent people that were killed today.
Don't put words in my mouth.
You asked a question.
Yeah,
I'm answering your question.
Who was killed today?
You're saying since it wasn't ICE agents that were killed, therefore this is a null and void conversation?
No. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Are you kidding me?
That's gaslighting. I'm asking you a simple question because when J.D. Vance went up there, and when you're coming up here...
This is not a good argument from you.
First of all,
innocent people got shot today, and you're like, well, it wasn't ICE agents that got shot.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the division that you all are sowing in this country...
I'm not sowing anything. I'm saying protect all law enforcement.
Because of the simple fact, yes, protect
Gavin Newsom went on TV last night. Did you see what he said? He said, ICE agents are authoritarian. You don't think that can inspire someone to do that?
ICE agents should be able to come home every single night. And so don't put words in my mouth. I am acting like it. First. And second, the fact that you and J.D. Vance and every other Republican can go on here and talk about...
We're not shooting people. We're not shooting people. The left is shooting people, and they're being inspired by that. I'm sorry. I have a friend that got shot and assassinated 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm a little bit hot on this one because you guys have been irresponsible with the rhetoric that is coming out from people on the left. Gavin Newsom went on TV last night. Gavin Newsom went on TV last night and disparaged ICE agents, attacked ICE agents, said they're authoritarian.
But before you even get to the evidence,
the evidence? Watch what he said last night on late night television.
I'm not talking about that, Ben, because you come on here and you gaslight.
I'm not gaslighting. I don't want innocent people to die.
Let me finish my sentence, please. You come on here and you gaslight and you put words in my mouth. And that's not what I said.
You interrupted me and said you got
Can you just let him Ben, in the
because
interest,
the question
hold on,
is,
Ben, in the interest of finishing this conversation,
what I want you to do is not only lift up those ICE agents. What I'm trying to get you to do is also lift up those people who were killed. Because when you do not lift up those people who were killed, as well as those law enforcement officers, you sow division in this country. And that's what I'm saying.
Let me say this.
Here's where I agree with Ben.
Let me say this.
Look at the bullets.
Here's where I agree with Ben.
I'm going to hit a pause on that and let other people.
Here's where I agree with Ben, all right? When the goal clearly was to hurt ICE agents, it matters.
Said it.
And I think that applies not just to ICE, but to law enforcement across the country. We should be angrier when law enforcement are targeted in this country.
Thank you.
Period. Now, that is a separate issue from linking rhetoric to saying that's why this has happened. They're doing this.
It was written on the bullets.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean
you don't have to connect dots here.
Of course
he wrote it down, so he didn't have to connect dots.
I know his motives. I'm not questioning his motives.
So then the motive was anti-ICE rhetoric.
Well, did it say rhetoric on the? Because I thought
it said anti-ICE, and when you have people out there literally 8 hours earlier.
Right. And so there you guys have it. And so even when a domestic terrorist engraves one of the bullets and leaves it behind with the markings anti-ICE on them, that's still not enough proof. That's still not enough for Democrats to be able to understand and acknowledge that they've gone too far. I mean, what more proof do they need? It's already been debunked by the FBI that the Dallas shooter intentions were to take out ICE agents.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI began its meticulous work at the crime scene. At the same time, we obtained and executed multiple search warrants yesterday for devices and locations associated with the sniper. FBI agents executed a search warrant at the sniper's residence yesterday and there found a collection of notes. First, I want to point out that one of these notes or papers, the sniper explicitly states, yes, it was just me. That statement appears to be correct at this point in the investigation. Notably, these loose notes included a game plan of the attack and target areas at the facility. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. He wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel and to maximize property damage at the facility. He hoped to minimize any collateral damage or injury to the detainees and any other innocent people. It seems that he did not intend to kill the detainees or harm them. It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. The tragic irony for his evil plot here is that it was a detainee who was killed and 2 other detainees that were injured when he fired into the Sally Port. He also hoped his actions would give ICE agents real terror of being gunned down, and he did this to induce constant stress in their lives. He hoped his actions would terrorize ICE employees and interfere with their work, which he called human trafficking. And this, what he did, is the very definition of terrorism.
All right, and so there you guys have it. And it's only due to the fact that the shooter was a bad shot that we're not having a conversation similar to the Charlie Kirk assassination about ICE agents being killed. And so the question becomes, what's motivating them? What's motivating the Dallas shooter who tried to take out agents? What's motivating the Chicago protesters yelling, "Shoot ICE"? Could it be language that's leading them to believe that they need to do something? They need to take action to stop what's happening with ICE agents deporting illegal immigrants. And so one thing that doesn't help is when you have leadership, or should I say a lack of leadership, from those like Jasmine Crockett. Here's how she sees things on what happened and who's really at fault.
That were the victims. The fact that we have someone who was entrusted with the care of these migrants, regardless of their status, she was entrusted with their care. And the fact that she cannot acknowledge that while these people were entrusted to her care, they ended up dying. That is a problem. The first thing that should have come out of her mouth, the first thing that should have come out of anyone's mouth that was engaged with this investigation is who died. Instead, a lot of people were sitting around believing potentially that officers had been harmed, that officers had been killed. And then the next thing you know, they're saying, yes, this guy was targeting officers, and he may or may not have been. We just want full transparency. But at the end of the day, we know that based on the information we've been given, that this assailant then decided that he was going to take his own life.
All right, there you guys have it. Jasmine Crockett, ladies and gentlemen. And she's speaking about the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas. And she's speaking about the situation as if she can control that some shooter would go on the roof and attempt to take out agents. And because they were a bad shot, miss and hit an actual detainee. And she's speaking about this as if that's something that the U.S. Attorney of the Northern Districts of Texas could actually control. You know, I know there are a lot of people who don't particularly like when the president kind of calls her out and labels her as having low IQ or low IQ individual, but those type of statements really don't help her out. But what can't be missed with all of this, the protest in Chicago, yelling "Shoot ICE," the back and forth on CNN, Jasmine Crockett and the ridiculous statements. There are actual real victims out there, everyday Americans who have been negatively impacted. And so let's get into this story. And it comes from Fox News, and it serves as just a reminder why the president has been so diligent in keeping his word, because this is what he ran on during his election, and removing illegal immigrants from this country.
A California father now demanding answers from Governor Gavin Newsom. This after ICE arrests an illegal immigrant who allegedly caused a multi-car pileup while driving an 18-wheeler. That crash last year severely injured 6-year-old Delilah Coleman, leaving her with critical and life-altering injuries. And her parents join us now, Marcus Coleman and Ileana Kraus. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry for what you and Delilah are going through. Marcus, could you start us here and just explain what happened and how your little girl has suffered after this?
Good morning. Yeah, she was involved in a vehicle accident last year on June 20th. And she was on her way to Victorville. We had a heat wave here in Bakersfield, 112 degrees that weekend. So she went up there to go swimming. And there was construction on the highway that she was on. They were at a dead stop. Multiple vehicles were sitting there waiting. And what they did was they closed off one lane to open up another lane and let traffic travel through one lane at a time. And the semi-truck failed to stop, smacked her vehicle first, as well as went through 4 other vehicles before coming to a complete stop. And my daughter was airlifted from Adelanto area, the Highway 395, all the way to Loma Linda Children's Hospital, where she stayed there for about a month and a half. And she was in a coma for about 3 of those weeks.
She's a beautiful child. Ileana, can you tell people a little bit about what she's going through in terms of continued injuries and the fact you have 2 other young children as well, and sometimes they're getting ahead of her.
Yes, we have a 3-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, and it seems like they're advancing a lot faster than she is at this point. She's receiving physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. She hasn't said much since the accident, if maybe 2-3 words. She has a TBI. She is not now diagnosed with cerebral palsy and global developmental delay. She doesn't walk. She receives nutrition through a G tube.
Right.
Right
she's
now,
going
we're
through a
not
lot.
very sure. Yeah, she's going through
Marcus,
a lot.
so
And
somebody was
it's a lot.
arrested. Can you tell us about what you know in terms of who he is and a little bit, please describe your attempts to get the attention of your governor?
Well, when the accident first happened, we had reached out to several parties. We reached out to the governor's office. I sent them several messages to their office via email. I called over there several times. I didn't get any response or anything like that. Pretty much like anybody inside the situation where we didn't know which way to go, who to complain to, or anything like that. A lot of people were kind of taken back that we were trying to reach out to the governor, like there was anything that he can do. We didn't know what could be done. But the driver was a 19-year-old or 20-year-old at the time. I think he had just turned 20. Here in California, you're allowed to get your Class A license at 18 years old as long as you drive within the state, which me as a truck driver myself, I've been truck driving since 2017. And I've never been on board with, an 18-year-old having a commercial driver license, and for reasons like this right here. But no, we never did receive anything back from the governor. We never received a call back. We never received the governor's going to look into this. We didn't receive anything.
Even a
and I had
courtesy.
actually sent them a letter. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And I sent them a letter to several news agencies, and even outside news agencies didn't want to pick this up. To them, it was, oh, this is, a Southern California issue. Why are you reaching out to us here in Sacramento? And in the letters to them, I stated, I was like, this isn't a shooting in East LA or a hurricane on the coast. This isn't anything. This is a truck driver that drives all over the United States. And this can happen anywhere where there's a road, and I sat there and I kept sending these out, and I didn't get any response. And then all of a sudden, the accident in Florida happened, and I got 3 news agencies that looked me back up and called me just to see if they were related, if the driver of my daughter's accident was the same driver as the accident that happened in Florida. And I was like, oh no, because the last names were the same. I was like, no, it's not the same guy. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they just dropped the story.
Well, we are proud to tell your story. It's really deeply affected me and Bill as we read about it and learned more about it. I admire your strength. I just want to read one thing to everybody here. This is from Christy Nome. She said that this is sadly another example of Gavin Newsom's California Department of Motor Vehicles issuing an illegal alien a commercial driver's license. How many more innocent people must become victims before Gavin Newsom stops playing games with American lives? Ileana, let me give you one more chance to just close us out here. In the time that we have, and you have everyone's attention, what do you want people to know about your sweet daughter?
She didn't deserve this. She was a very sweet girl, and she still is. And you could see that light of her still shining through, but we miss who she was.
And you need some help. She needs a lot of care. And I know that
She
you're doing
does.
a lot
She
of
has
it,
a
but
lot of
it's not
therapy,
easy to do it all on your own.
wheelchair. It's not. He has to take off work so many times throughout the week just because I don't have the strength to lift up a wheelchair on my own.
Yep.
Like you stated, I have 2 smaller children, and it's hard. This is not how we imagine life.
Well, God bless you. Thank you. And we'll keep your story front and
God
center.
bless you.
Yep.
Hope you get an answer from the governor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so, guys, there you have it. And while there are protesters in cities like Chicago who will continue to obstruct and block and try and prevent ICE agents from doing their job, I'm sure that family wishes ICE could have done something a little bit sooner, and maybe the little girl would be able to have a normal life. But as always, questions, comments, thoughts, and your feedback. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy any part of the content, smash the like button for more, subscribe to the channel, and as always, until next time.